Hi guys, welcome to Women Who podcast. My name is Meredith. I am a soul purpose coach, and this week I am joined by Jack McCloskey, who is a breathwork facilitator and coach. I wanted to dive in this week. I did send you a little message into the realm of men's emotions and opening up, which I feel you are well equipped on.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me really doesn't feel equipped because it's still something that it's a journey that I'm still on. Like something that
Mm,
a desire that I have is just to be fully authentic in my expression wherever I go. So whether it's on a
mm,
podcast or in a meeting or going for a coffee and I feel emotion arise, like I want to be able to feel it and let it pass through without any blockages. But vulnerability is a very in-depth topic, and it's something that I still am working on with holding myself to when I feel sad. Because like sadness, for example, is something that has been suppressed in myself for so long. Like you never feel sad. You're the happy Jack. You're this kind of thing. So to relearn and to nurture myself and be the parent that I needed in those moments is a journey. And
mm.
it's crazy to for me to witness the difficulties that come with that and what comes up as I embark on this journey. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I'm doing the best that I can. I don't know if I'm
Mm.
the uh the vulnerable expert, but yeah, here I am.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. The breath
So,
work, breath has helped massively with that because when
oh my God, yeah.
you're
Mm.
breathing, you're present with what's here. So, like for example, if you have sadness that's in your body, but also you have shame around, oh, hey, men don't cry. And again, this is
Mm.
like a societal conditioning. So if you have sadness, but then also shame, the shame will keep the sadness down. So then you have
Mm.
to work through the shame to get to the sadness. So it's an interesting and beautiful journey to reconnect with that part of myself.
Mm. There's so many layers to it. Um, as you say, it's like you've got the secondary emotions, you've got sadness, and then you've got also the shame that comes with feeling that sadness in the first place, let alone expressing it to anyone outside of uh, the realms of your bedroom, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so my question then, when did you first start to build a healthy relationship with your emotions? And
Mm.
then also, when did you start your journey with breath work and what impact did that have?
Yeah. Great question. So with the emotion side of things, like I said, it's still a journey that I am embarking on. I would say that over the last 3 years, so when I first moved to Brighton, originally from Watford, moved down to Brighton, I had a lot of space to myself, space like in a new city, didn't know anyone, as well as space in my own flat. So
Mm,
I had a lot of time to really sit with the emotions that were coming up. But tears has been the way in which I have really allowed myself to express my tears. And that can be sometimes tears of sadness or like deep pain. And
mm,
I feel like crying and tears is like a beautiful release of grace. Like,
mm,
like even this week I went to a funeral and we were celebrating the life of a beautiful man, and like
mm,
there was tears that were flowing down my cheeks, and it was nice to hold myself and really be like, wow, this there's a part of me that's sad that like we're saying goodbye to someone, but there's also so much beauty in the life that he did leave, and hearing about different people's experience of this gentleman and their relationship with him. And it's like this tears is a real, I don't know, there's something very graceful when you're allowing yourself to feel what needs to be felt in the present moment. So yeah, I would say moving down to Brighton gave me the space to really find out who I was and find out like what is energy and what's this energy inside of me, and like frustration's been a big one. Like before, a
mm,
lot of frustration, underneath frustration, sadness. So there's an element of like, okay, cool. I started doing some frustration releases, like punching the bed and screaming into a pillow, and just allow myself to be fully fucked off with life and like fucked off with with my parents or whoever I felt, wasn't good enough, which essentially is never to do with anyone outside of yourself. So even my own relationship with my parents, who are both my role models, like I love my parents, they're
Yeah.
amazing. I've still fucked off with them. There's still scenarios in my life where I'm like, nah, like I'm pissed off with you, dad, you weren't there. I'm pissed off with you, mum, because of this. And it's like allowing yourself to feel them and go through that process then takes you into the next level of evolution where you understand that actually it was nothing to do with them. It's always to do
Amen.
with your own perception of life, that you perceived in that moment that they were wrong, but actually it's your own wounding. And that's
Yeah.
part of your journey. So
Exactly.
yeah, moving down to Brighton helps. And then the breath just allows you to really feel what needs to be felt, because your mind can come in. If you're feeling sad, right? And you have no awareness to what's going on in your mind will, the ego's job is to try and survive. Plain and simple. And it's the ego doesn't go anywhere. So it's always trying to survive. So if you're feeling sad and it's feeling scared because of the conditioning of the society around it, it's going to try and convince you very sneakily and not to feel these things. So it'll come off with like this story of like, oh yeah, you've seen it now. So you've allowed it to pass, because awareness is everything and awareness is light, and you brought the darkness to the light. And the spiritual ego is the biggest ego. So
It's the
the
biggest
breath,
fuckery of them all.
it is. So yeah, the breaths help me to stay present with like, okay, there's sadness here. The mind tries to take me off, but I bring myself back to the breath, the breath, not the breasts, the breath. Bring myself back to the
Bring myself back to the breath.
Bring myself back to my breast.
Evolution.
And that. What are you? Oh, I'm a breast coach. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how that goes down?
You get a lot of clients.
I would really love what I do then, yeah.
But,
Coming back to the breath, like when
breath.
I'm sad and I'm in a deep transcendental breath work state, it helps me to fully feel that emotion, which allows it to fully pass, rather than feel it a little bit. And I notice this with my clients. Sometimes they're in it and they're feeling it a little bit, but then I get the sense that actually they're afraid to fully feel it, because they're like, oh, Jack, the mind could come and be like, oh, Jack's watching, or like, da da da. And this is, where awareness is a superpower, because some people aren't even aware that that's happening.
And I suppose what comes into it as well is like, I mean, my relationship with breath work, I discovered it out here and discovered the power of it. And just how much you can kind of center straight through the bullshit of like telling a story and like sitting on that story and crying through that story and trying to figure it out. It was like breath work, like nervous system regulated, breathe, cry. It was really profound, but I think I can definitely resonate with that kind of feeling of like, especially I suppose if you're a man, not wanting to really feel into something deeply if someone's watching, or because there's that shame element, exactly as we said. And even though it's a powerful tool, like the facilitator that I've worked with, I actually interviewed her last week. She said that in some sessions, she notices when a client is resisting an emotion. And she said, I can coax them, but there's a point where you just need to kind of surrender to the nervous system if it's not ready to feel it. Which is hard as well, because that's what I experienced last week, and I was getting so frustrated with myself. I was like, God, I've been in this for so long. Why couldn't I feel that? But you just got to trust that that's, what the nervous system is ready for, and maybe it will come out in another session or whatever. But
yeah, trust the process.
This has been a topic that I've been really curious about. Like, my clientele is predominantly women. Well, it not predominantly is women, because I simply cannot understand from the male perspective how to coach from that perspective of like not being able to experience emotions, because I feel like with women we've got so many less layers. Like ultimately it's much more widely accepted for us to break down, have a meltdown, scream, shout, punch pillows, than it is for men. And like I've spoken to quite a few of my male friends out here, and like I've just been on this journey of trying to unpack it purely as a passion project and to try and understand men more so that I can be there for the people, that the men that I care about in my life, you know, and understand it from their perspective. Because I think it is quite a challenging time for men right now. And I suppose what I'd love to ask you is, how do you think we could make it easier for men to open up? Or what do you think men need right now, maybe from each other or from women, that could make this easier, you know?
Yeah. Wow, that's an amazing question. I don't know how many podcasts you've done, but you've definitely got a natural gift for it.
Oh, it's actually only my
Um,
second one.
wow, yeah, shit, I'm honored.
Thank
I
you.
mean, there's a lot of things that came up for me there. One is like this mass understanding that every human being is made up of two energies. One has been labeled and identified as a male and a female, but actually, I think the what's helped me understand is the masculine and feminine energies, the yin and the yang. So, like for me,
Mm,
allowing myself to cry and being in these in an array of different emotions is me connecting back to it, my feminine energy, which
mm,
actually as a society has been blocked, has been suppressed. The feminine women and the feminine energy in both men and women has been suppressed for such a long
mm,
time. So where I feel like the world is navigating, like where consciousness is going now, is like the feminine energy is rising up in men and
mm,
women, because it's not, the feminine isn't just in women, it's in both sexes. So for
mm,
me, it's about like other men connecting to their feminine energy as well as women connecting deeper to their divine feminine energy, because something that's been so supportive of me in that is finding a community here, right? The divine feminine women that I hang around with, and they like almost they want vulnerability, they want to know how
mm.
I'm actually feeling, so they've created a
Yeah.
safe space for me to be like, oh shit, it's actually okay that I'm feeling a bit sad, or it's okay that I want distance because I'm feeling a bit anxious. Or they're like, hey, how are you actually feeling? I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually feeling like this. I might have just said, hey, I'm good or I'm well, but they don't want I'm good and I'm well. They want
Mm,
like what's actually occurring in your life right now. So I think for men, any men who maybe listen to this, it's like just understanding there's way more to you than what meets the identity that you're identifying with, and be open to
mm,
exploring your feminine energy at a deeper level, which it practices like yoga,
mm,
meditating to be aware of what's coming up. But then also from the feminine's angle, like that supported me, I think just continue going deeper within your own true self. And that may not be the deepening the feminine energy. It may be that you're actually at your core, you're more masculine. But I know that the more feminine women, divine feminine women that they are, the more safe that men will feel to open up, because that's just what
mm,
the feminine does. It's like that Mary Magdalene energy, that the nursing energy. It's like you can just
mm.
feel safe to open up, because that's what the feminine does for the masculine. It like holds and
Yeah.
supports it, whether that you're feeling super strong or super weak, and they both have their reverse paradigms in that.
Mm. It's like that natural kind of, that nurturing mother energy, isn't it? That's what it reminds me of like the warm, cozy house that your grandma lives in, and she makes you food and she makes you feel safe.
Mm,
And I think that is actually, I think it's quite misunderstood at the moment, but that's actually what the divine feminine is. Like the divine feminine isn't the kind of bulldozy, I hate to say it, but like the kind of really hyper masculine feminist movement that's going on, that like has pushed us both as genders and as people, um, who identify as different genders, everybody's kind of pushed into this unresourceful energy of either unresourceful masculine or unresourceful feminine. And unresourceful masculine is like hurt, wounded, aggressive, like childlike, um, and is kind of pointing the finger. And then the wounded feminine is like standing up and trying to be the man of the family because she feels like the masculine, divine masculine, let her down. And this is such a fascinating topic that's just been unfolding in front of my eyes, especially on my own journey, where I've been like understanding what divine feminine and divine masculine looks like within me. And on the days where, especially on like during my cycle, like there are days where I literally just need to be like the complete like epitome of what divine feminine is presence. And I've just needed to just be with myself and be that nurturing energy for myself. And then I have days where I'm a boss bitch and I can just fly through the day, smash through tasks. And like there's that balance that I really like feel like I'm mastering, you know. But I'm noticing as I'm more comfortable in my feminine, as I'm more comfortable in holding space for myself and the people around me, I'm noticing like the men in my life that are coming forwards, and feeling like for the most part in their life, they haven't really had enough divine feminine energy around them in order to feel like they can open up and they can be themselves. They've felt like one thing that came to my awareness I had a huge argument about was this. There's a series of videos on YouTube about how men are the only beings in the world that aren't unconditionally loved, and how men need to have a body, a job, be the provider. And I really wasn't able to articulate myself well back then. But I feel like that's where a lot of men are today, which is feeling like they need to be something in order to feel loved, you know, but that's just not true, like at all. And that's what I think you're talking about with that divine feminine energy. Like the women that you're close to, they're not saying what have you done or what have you achieved, they're saying how are you, because they love you, you know.
Yeah, and that's been a massive one for me over the last 3 years. Like moving down to Brighton, I had my own ecom business, and I was very much in the this like I want to make so much money, and I just want to be this guy, and I just want to, you know, there's some good things in it, you know, help people out that I know that haven't had the opportunities that I want, but also just this element of I just want loads of money, and it was a social status thing, which isn't a bad thing. Like it's not a, if anything, if you have a desire to go after you know, money or something, you know, for all we know, you're being called to a bigger path, which was what happened for me. You know, I had no idea I'd be a spiritual man in quotations when I first started out, but that was a big one for me. Like, and it still is. It's like this idea that I'm worthy of love, regardless of how much money's in my bank account, regardless of what it is that I do. But you know, we struggle. And then on the flip side, there's also something very satisfying about being able to provide. You know, it feels a very for my own masculine soul, it feels very helpful. But you can also get it from like fixing some shelves in your friend's apartment, or you know, going home to help your grandma with something, because it's the same energy like that. You're giving, right? You're giving your labor for something that's bigger than yourself, and that in itself is divine masculine. So the beautiful thing about this topic, whenever I speak about it, is that for it to really be healed, it takes both parties. Which how beautiful it's which is the union that this world craves. Like it, you know, the masculine. Funny enough, the divine feminine is being healed. I read with the Gene Keys book. There's a book called The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, and it states in there that the way the feminine is being healed is through men, and that's through their mothers. So the men at the moment who have been raised well, you know, by their mothers, or mothers who have just loved on them, essentially, they are now way more open to like taking more self-care for themselves because they've been raised by a mother who supported that. And then there's a new era of men coming through that are healing, you know, a large portion of the divine feminine, which is interesting because you think the divine feminine has to be healed by the women carrying this feminine energy, but actually it's also being healed by men carrying the divine feminine energy who have been raised by mothers who have loved them in a new way than to the way that they were loved. And that is evolution of consciousness. It's like, you know, the saying standing on the shoulders of giants, because it's like
it's one of my favorites.
Every parent is trying to do a better job than they were parented, and that is where like love in itself is very transformed inside of a family.
I completely agree. I think you've summed it up beautifully there as well, because I think there's definitely an importance, or like this sort of trend, like not trend, I don't know how to say it, but like where people are saying the buck stops there and that this generation is doing most of the healing. But actually, I looked at something recently that was like, you have no idea the journeys that your parents went through in order to get where they were, in order to look after you. Like, yes, maybe they didn't, maybe they let you down in some areas, but they were still doing the best that they could. That's a really one of my favorite Brene Brown topics, is when she goes around and interviews people and asks them about someone that they're maybe judging or hating on, and she basically says to them, imagine if God or someone really who you respected came along and said that person's doing the best that they could. And then you have to let go of all of the ties that you had to them in expectations and just let them be human. And it's the same with our parents, but at some point we have to be like, you know, they're humans at the end of the day. They did the best that they could, and they've done so much to get us here. And that's beautiful.
Yeah. And also there's an element of like, how arrogant are we to think that's exactly how it went down. So like, for example, your dad shouts at you, and you just remember this memory of your dad shouting at you, and you're like, well, I don't know why he got so frustrated and shouted at me. I would never do that as a parent. But then it's like, for all you know, he's just had a very tough week at work where he's working his socks off at a job he doesn't really like to provide for you and your family to go away in summer. His wife has also just had a niggle at him that he doesn't agree with, you know, and then he's got financial pressures because, you know, maybe at work they've just had a big fire at work, and he's got shares in a company, and it's not looking good for you, the family, and he's thinking about, shit, I might have to remortgage the home. And then here comes his beautiful son or daughter that is just, you know, keeps, you know, says one thing, and he responds very calm, and he says another thing, and he's like, he's getting a bit agitated, but he's aware of it, and he's like, okay, I'll respond calm. And the third time he loses it a little bit, and guess what, he is human. But then from that moment, that child sees that as like, oh, my dad made me feel this way, and that's where the blame starts. But actually, on the grand scheme of things, you have no idea what that human being has just gone through. Plus, you have no idea of the karmic journey that blessing has just given you, if you're on the spiritual path.
Amen.
Or a path to self-development. That's why I think you know, having a spiritual path, having a religion, having something there that you, a journey where you understand there's something greater than yourself, is just supportive of your own experience, because you start looking at things very differently. And if you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at will change, which is by Wayne Dyer. That's not from me.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I love this topic as well. I mean, we've delved into so many different ones, but this one's a brilliant one as well, of like your relationship with faith. Believing in something that you can't see feels like insanity, but actually it gives you so much to just trust that what got you here is what's going to propel you if you look at it consciously and you deal with it consciously, rather than blame and judgment and pointing the finger, which keeps you stuck. Thank you so much, Jack.
My absolute pleasure. I love having these conversations. Thank you for inviting me into this space.
You've always been someone that has struck me. You were one of the first people I thought of, even though I called it Women Who. I thought of this topic, and then I also thought that you would be a perfect person to talk to because whenever I was around you in Brighton when we went to our moon circles and things like that, you were just so grounded. Like that was something that struck me within your energy as soon as I met you. Was like
Mm.
you were just there, and that's something that I haven't witnessed in many men. I think, which is quite sad, but yeah, that's why you came to mind.
Well, thank you. That's a massive compliment that I receive, and it hasn't been easy.
No,
It
I
has not
bet.
been easy. It's been a long journey to that, and it's basically a long journey back to the present moment, like back to being present with what's unfolding. Like how comfortable in your nervous system can you sit in anywhere in any position that the universe pulls you in, and it's like that's
Mm.
where making peace with the unknown, which is the present moment, which is actually where the fun is. Because like if I could hand you a book saying, hey, this is a book of your life of everything that's going to happen, like would you really want to read it and know that, or would you rather
No.
just walk through life and be like, oh shit, this is what's being presented to me? But we have a nervous system and we have an ego and we have past memories that are stored in the body that then are projected out onto a reality, and it changes the game. But then it's like
Mm.
going back home to yourself, which is the stardust, if you want to call it that, or a child of God, or whatever, your higher self, or the
Yeah.
expression of love, or whatever that is. Which I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent there, but I really appreciate the reflections.
I'd love for you to tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you guys can hit me up on social media. It's just at one Jack McCloskey, which is JackMcCloskey. And the first person that hits me up, I want to offer one of your listeners a free breath work because I'm
Woo!
so fortunate to be a vessel of this divine modality that's really, I think, going to play a massive role in helping people return home to themselves.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in terms of Women Who, every week I will be interviewing someone who I am inspired by within the realms of personal development. So you can expect a new episode on YouTube every week. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody listening.
See you guys.
Bye.